In this video, I'm going to show how to optimize a Google Business profile. This is the exact process I use for clients to get them to rank as high as possible in the map results. Now, if you stay till the end of the video, I'm going to be giving away my exact Google Business profile optimization checklist that you could use inside your own business to maximize your local rankings and results. So for Google Business, what we're going to get into is my complete checklist here. We're going to go through basically each line item, and I'm going to show how to check these things and ultimately how you want to make the changes. Now, ultimately, when you're making these changes, it's really important to start tracking some of your data before you start making changes, because we really want to be able to identify what's actually working. So I really like to run these map grid scan reports. You could use a tool like Bright Local. Local Falcon is another one I really like to run these grids. And what this is going to allow you to do is you can look at this one from September. It shows where my location is and then where I'm ranking in the maps at these different distances around my location. So right away, we can see I have 6 high ranking grid points, which means I'm in the top 3. Being in the top 3 is really critical because that's where you're actually going to be visible. If we type in storage units in Austin, Texas, what we'll see is the 3 map results here. So this is ultimately what we're tracking. If you're not in the top 3, somebody has to click more places to actually find your location, no matter what type of business you are. So getting into the top 3 is ultimately your first goal. So right away, we can tell I'm only in the top 3 at a few spots. So after implementing this checklist that I'm going to walk through, we could see this same business now has almost complete coverage around their location here. You can see there's 46 that are in the top 3, and very many of those are either 1 or 2. There's only a few spots left that we really need to focus on to max this out. Now, I like to look at the total grid points, but also the average map rank. So we can see our average was about 8.8, and now it's up to about a 2.1. And the nice thing about Google Business is depending on your competition level, you can see results within the first 3 months. Sometimes within even 1 or 2 months, we see a lot of movement. It depends on your market, depends on your industry and the competitors, but this is not uncommon if you're implementing the right things. So as far as the actual checklist here, so what I like to do is open up this checklist and then open up my Google Business profile. So you can go to business.google.com to access this. We're not going to go through how to verify a Google Business profile. We'll cover that in a separate video, and there's a lot of free training on that already. But this is really the first step. You need to get your profile verified if you want to actually rank in the map listings. So what I do in the audit, I just check if we're verified or not. Sometimes I'll work with a client and they don't realize they actually never verified their location or never set it up. So that's what we're looking for here, is just, is it verified? Now, this is a quick thing to check off. As far as the structure here, so I have in these columns kind of like an impact level. Usually what I'll do when I'm conducting one of these audits, I'll mark each item pass or fail. That way I can filter to all the items that were failed at the end. So I know exactly what I need to change. And then I'll actually track, is it implemented? So if I mark this item fail, I want to be able to know, did I actually implement this or did I just audit it? So then ultimately we'll be able to make sure all the changes actually get implemented, which is really common to run an audit and forget to actually implement some of the items as you're doing a bunch of other things. So that's why these 2 columns are in this audit. So next what we want to look at is keywords in the Google Business profile name. Now, I don't suggest stuffing keywords in the name, but this is a ranking factor. And sometimes what you'll find is you have a small competitor who has an exact keyword in their business name and they're actually ranking well because of it. You can try this. I would say try it at your own risk. What often happens here is you do risk your profile being suspended. There's a bunch of issues. A lot of times what happens is your name just gets reverted back. So if you add something to it, it'll get reverted back. But I wouldn't recommend doing this. If you're in one city, sometimes it does make sense to get a DBA. File a DBA for doing business as for the actual keyword rich name you want. And then you have a legitimate name that you're using and you're not just stuffing keywords in. If the keywords are valuable enough, that strategy can sometimes make sense. But overall, what I usually recommend is don't really worry about this. Focus on everything else. And you should be able to get movement if you're doing everything else right. you shouldn't need to do this. I like to check because sometimes we'll get a client and they've really stuffed a lot of keywords in their name, and we'll usually recommend against that. So that's kind of the reason this is in the audit here. Now, after that, we're going to look at categories. So when you go to your Google Business profile, you'll see your category right here. But when you click Edit Profile, this is now going to pull up all the information we could change. So this is how you would change your business name. What we want to do is go to Edit Categories. Now, this plugin here, you won't see this Find Categories button unless you sign up for this GMB Everywhere tool. Again, you don't need this tool, but that's why these items are showing up in my Google Business. But when I go to Edit Category, you want to set your primary category, and then all the additional categories are relevant. Now, only use additional categories that are actually relevant to what you do. You don't want to just pick categories that are somewhat relevant if it's really not what you offer. So really make sure you're being thoughtful about the categories. Now, often it's hard to determine what should be the primary and what should be the secondary. For self-storage, because we work with these businesses specifically, we know the exact structure. It should pretty much always be self-storage facility as primary and the storage facility as additional, and then any other type of storage that the business offers. If you have in another industry, a lot of times what you can do is actually just search the keyword and check what the top 3 ranking results are doing. So let's do, instead we'll do, let's just do plumber now in this search. And let's see what the categories are being used. So right away, I could see plumber, plumber, and plumber. So that same exact category is being used for all of these. If I click into the result here and pull up the #1 result, again, we could take a look here, and right in this menu here, as I scroll down, you'll see all of these businesses. This one's pretty straightforward. They're all using plumber as the main category. Now, let's do storage units. And here we can see self-storage facility is the main category in all the top ranking results. And I don't actually see anyone even using storage facility here. So in these situations, it's really straightforward which category you need to use. Let's do another market here just to see if we can find some different results. So if we look through here, same thing. Everybody's using storage facility as the primary category. Now let's try a search like this. And let's see if we do something like this where we actually, so here we can see teeth whitening service, cosmetic dentist. So see, this is where we're dental clinic. We're starting to see a lot of variant in terms of category. So if this is your primary service, this is how you could do the analysis to try to figure out what category you should use. In this case, 3 out of the top 4 are using teeth whitening service as their category. That could be an indication that you want to go that same route. So that's usually how I'll do the analysis. If you're familiar with an industry, the nice thing is you'll start to get an understanding of the categories that are being used. But really important to do this step properly. Now, photos and media on the Google Business profile. So if we close out of this and we go to photos, you can also just click photos here on your actual listing to see what you have. But I like to click photos here. And this gives you the option to add a logo and a cover photo. So this one does not have a cover photo, so I would add one, but you could also add your logo. And then here's where you can manage all your media. I like to, and again, this one needs high quality images of the location. It doesn't have those. It has some videos, which is good. I want to have a mixture of photo and video on here ideally. And what I like to look for is a couple things. One, do we have enough photos and video? Interior, exterior, photos of your team, your staff, photos with customers if you have them. Any kind of photos doing business are really important. Same thing with video. And then once you have these in place, the next thing we want to do is look at how recent were photos and videos added. I like to add new photos and videos at least every quarter. If you could do it monthly or every other month, that's even better. But just consistent updates to your media can help overall just continue the activity on your profile. So when I'm doing the audit, that's what I'm looking for is, do they have the right amount of photos and videos? How many photos and videos do they have compared to their competitors? I also like to look at the top 3 competitors and get a feel for how much media they have on their pages and their profiles. And that'll inform how much we need to do. So that's really what I'm looking for here. And this is more of an ongoing thing and rather than just a one-time implementation. Now, next, what we want to do is just go through all the settings in Google Business. So you want to make sure your address, your phone number, and all the settings are correct. So when we go back here and we go to edit profile, this is where we're going to go down this list one by one and make sure everything is set up correctly. Now, your description is important. Having a keyword in here doesn't really help ranking that much. I tend to do it anyway, like have my service and the name of my cities in the description. It's not really a direct ranking factor, but as long as you do it in a way that reads well, because people are going to see this description on your actual profile here. So you want to make sure it reads well and is going to help people ultimately click on your profile and visit your website and ideally call you or convert. So don't worry about stuffing keywords too much. Just make sure this reads well and is compelling. Opening date is, I like to fill in everything when possible. So ideally this one would have the opening date that your business opened filled in. And sometimes it'll say how many years you've been in business. Your phone number is really important. If you're using a tracking number like CallRail or What Converts, what I like to do is put my real number as the additional and the tracking number as the primary. And that'll allow you to track phone calls. A lot of people will say about name, address, phone number. It's really important for that to be consistent through your Google Business, your directories, your citations, and your website. I find the benefits of call tracking typically outweigh that, so I wouldn't be worried about this. If you really want to track phone calls to get an understanding of how many leads you're getting, that's how I would do it. If you don't have call tracking, you just need a primary phone number, and that's it. And that should match what your website shows. Then you want to put your website URL here. Now, normally what I would do is I would typically link to a location page. This business here only has one location, so we've chosen to link to the home page. But in general, I prefer to go to the actual location page. Or this was a multi-location business, you want to link directly to the page of this location. You don't want to go to the home page. If you're a solo location, you have the option of going to the home page, or if you have a location page, you can kind of choose which one makes sense for you. Now, I like to add UTM tracking here. There's a lot of different ways you can do this. This is just how I do it. There's no real right or wrong. This will allow your Google Business data to show up separately inside your Google Analytics. Now, some people don't put local here. They just keep it Google Organic and then use the campaign. I've been doing the kind of this method just because I want it split out, but you kind of can play around with this. We're not going to go too deep into UTM tracking. You could just copy this exactly. If you want your Google Analytics reports to maintain the same with your organic search data, I would actually do it this way. Source Google, medium organic, and then campaign, you could say local or GBP, and then you could use the campaign reporting to break out your Google Business traffic separately. But this helps you evaluate, if we go back to this result here, the traffic coming from this versus the traffic coming from the regular organic results. So you could actually see your conversions and your traffic separately. What's often interesting is the map results for a lot of the industries that I work in, like self-storage, typically convert the best. And you could actually have your data prove that by setting up this UTM tracking. So that's the main reason I do that. Now, social profiles, it's important. I would link to all your social profiles. You can see all the options here that Google has that you can link to. So as many social profiles as you have, I would link to them right here, and it's going to show up on your profile. Your address, it's important to make this consistent with the way it's written on your website. Make sure it's all dialed in. The map pin as well. If you click adjust, you could actually move the map pin. So in this case, we're right on target where we need to be. But if you found it was a little bit off, it's important to line this up with your actual address, so it's all dialed in. Now, service area, we're kind of testing on this one if adding a service area does anything. In general, if you have a physical location, you don't always need a service area. Now, if you're a business without a physical location and you're just a service area business, well, then these are very important. And I would choose your top locations that you service here. We're kind of testing if this actually helps us show up in other cities. It doesn't really look like it does, but that's why it's filled in here. Now, for your hours are also really important. You want to make sure this matches what your website says. And you also want to use additional hours when they're needed. So for some storage businesses, you'll have different office hours and access hours. So you could actually click access and set up separate access hours. So you could have different hours when you have a customer service rep available and different hours when people can access their facility. So you can kind of look through the options here, but these are all your options for additional hours, where if you have multiple sets of hours for different things, you want to fill those in accurately here. Now, after this, you're going to get into a bunch of just settings at the bottom. We don't need to go into these too deep. You can click on each one, and if any of these are relevant for you, you can check off yes. So basically what you want to do is just go through each of these and mark off the ones that are relevant to you. Same thing here. Do you have parking options? Is there free parking, on-site or paid parking? There's this recycling section. What payments do you accept? And then service options, if you have any of these, or on-site services. So the main thing here is just double check what's relevant for you and just make sure you fill in everything. And then that's really gonna be your core settings on your Google Business profile. After that, we're gonna get into some extra items like Q&As, products, and services, and some different things. So when I go here, you'll notice there's products, services, booking, Q&A, ad update. There's a lot of additional features here. So depending on your category, you might have different options. So it's important to see, based on your business type, what options are available, and then fully utilize them and fill them in. For storage, what we do is we set up products for the different units that they offer. So in this case, they have 5x10, 10x10s. They also have vehicle storage. And then we also set up categories for those as well. The product categories are important because they actually show up right here. What we should really do on this one is probably have separate categories for RV storage, boat storage, vehicle, and then we'll actually get more of these buttons here showing up. So that's something I would look to do with this facility. But when you go to add a product, you'll see all the options. You can name it, you can create your category. You'll see I have 2 created, but I can create a new one. You want to add a photo. If you want to show pricing, you don't have to. I generally like to, but if depending on your business, you don't have to. And you could add a description, and then you could add a URL to go to. And you want to build out as many of those as possible, and you get this section. Now, services are based on your categories. What I like to do with services is I like to always select any of the ones that Google is giving us that are relevant. And then you could also add custom ones. So these are based on your category. So if this facility had climate control, I would want to select this. We do have online payments, so we probably should select that. And then what you want to do as well is you also want to fill in a description. So this one does not have any descriptions. So what I would go in and do is click on this and actually add a few sentences of a description. Now you can use some AI tools to help you write it and then just edit, but adding the right services and then descriptions are important. Now this one has no automatic categories, services from Google, but you'll see this one does. So again, you want to check off the ones that Google is providing and then add any custom ones on top of it. A lot of ways you can go with this. Sometimes we'll write about like excellent customer service. We'll write about things like that, easy access, but whatever you think is relevant for you. And then if Google provides some suggested services, definitely utilize any of the ones that are relevant for you and then just fill in all the information. Now bookings, what this does, if you have like a calendar tool where people can book things, you can set up a booking feature and you'll see it shows like this. We were kind of testing it on the storage facility and just driving this to their location page where you could book units. So ideally this is more used for like a Calendly or any like scheduling tool, but it allows people to book a meeting with you right from your Google Business profile or schedule an appointment. Now Q&As are important. What I like to do with Q&As, they show up right here, is if any customer asks you something, it's very important to answer it. But you don't have to wait for a customer to ask. I like to put in common questions somebody would have before converting and reaching out to me. So in this case, we're doing what type of vehicles do we store? And you'll see we've answered each question ourselves. Is the facility secure? What are the hours? What are the amenities? How do I rent a unit? So all of those things you can put in here to ultimately help conversions. So any question somebody may ask that you think will help conversion, you can put that in right here. Now, and that's kind of what the Q&A feature is for. Then we'll get to updates. So updates are going to be your posting feature here. This is where you could set up posts. Now, these by themselves are not the most impactful thing, but it does add this nice section on your Google Business profile that you can control the image, the text. There's call now options. There's learn more. There's different call to actions on these. I like to set up ideally at least a few of these per month. I know some people try and do these daily. Some people do these once per week. I lean to doing them more once a week or a few times per month, but you can use scheduling tools. There's a bunch of scheduling tools now that exist. But the main thing is here, every month, it's good to add at least a few of these. So you just click on add update, and then you could choose which option's relevant for you. So typically most of you are going to do add update, but if you have an event coming up, you can do this and actually put in the details of the event. If you have an offer or discount, you can do that here. You could upload a custom image and then give details about the offer. And then for general uses, the add update feature is good enough. So what you want to do is add a photo, write up a description. You have about 1,500 characters, and you want to choose the most relevant call to action. I like to alternate these if there's multiple that are relevant. For self-storage, I'll alternate between call now. If we want to get phone calls, I'll use learn more. Sometimes I'll try order online and I'll link right to my rental page. So whatever of these are relevant, buy works as well. Utilize the right one and it'll show up as the clickable link at the bottom of your post. So those, again, it's good to do on at least a monthly basis, but ideally you do those weekly. And those are really the main items here. Now, only other thing I didn't cover is this. So Google will also give you ideas of things you can do right here. So you'll see add update, confirm holiday hours, add directions to your website. If you click on these, you could actually implement some of these things right here. I recommend doing as many of them as possible. So I would just go through these one by one. The first one is just your performance stats, but adding a map to your website, add amenity map, any of these that are relevant to you, you want to utilize. Now, we didn't talk about reviews. Reviews are one of the most impactful ranking factors, getting both more quantity and quality from your competitors. So if we go here, we'll be able to see our reviews. Now, there's a couple of things with reviews. I like to reply to every review. So in this case, we're not replying to the reviews on this profile. So we really should be replying positive or negative. You definitely want to reply to negative reviews because that's a chance for you to sort of make it right. And even if the person leaving the negative review doesn't take it down, future customers will see how you respond to that negative review. So really important to do that properly and respond in a way where you're sort of showing people that you're trying to make the situation right. And you're not necessarily being combative or arguing with the person right on your Google business profile, because that could actually impact future conversions that you would have gotten if you didn't respond in a poor way. So really important to respond to negative, but I think it's even important to respond to positive reviews. I want to respond to everything to show the activity here. Now, you want to try to generate reviews, as many as you can, really. More important, though, than getting a ton of them in like one day is more consistency over time. So you want to make this a part of your weekly, daily, monthly business process where you're consistently asking customers to leave you a review. And if you click this button, you can actually get a link that you could send people that will go directly there. And there's even email, WhatsApp, and Facebook options. So you want to make it as seamless as possible for people to leave you a review. But really important, after you implement all the technical changes to your Google business, building up your reviews is one of the main ways you can improve your rankings, but not just rankings, also your conversions. If we go to this situation here and look at this, so in this case, the number one ranking result has the most reviews, but sometimes the number 2 or number 3 result has more reviews and a better star rating. And if that's the case, you can actually get more leads and conversions, not even ranking in position 1, just because people scan the reviews. So really important to, not just for rankings, but to actually get conversions and grow your business, is building up these reviews. Now, the reason it's important to do that business start date is you'll actually see 45 years in business, 10 years in business, 10 years in business. If you were to utilize that feature, that's another thing, this opening date, that's another data point that Google can pull in about your business. So right away, that 45 years in business is going to help them get more conversions. So definitely something you'll want to consider and potentially adding, and that'll start to build up over time. Now, if we go back to the template here, so those are kind of the core things. In this template, we have some other ranking factors for local search. So I'm going to record separate videos on these other factors like citations. I know we got into reviews a little bit, but also backlinks, on-page SEO. There's a lot of factors here. Google Business tends to be the lowest hanging fruit and the thing I recommend doing as soon as possible. And then sometimes that's enough to improve your rankings in some markets. In other markets where there's more competition and sophistication, you might have to go through this full local audit process. And I do have a video on this full audit. But those are kind of the core things I look at when optimizing a Google business profile. So if you want access to this Google Business Profile checklist, I do have a newsletter where I give out free templates every month. So just sign up for that. I'll include a link in the description. And if you can't find it or need help finding it, just comment on the video and we'll get you access to the template.